Today, for our Secretary of State Forum, to start off, I'm going to let Mr. Albert Guillory come up to speak on behalf of A.G. Crow, who is not able to be here because of a personal issue. Our other candidates that we have today are Turkey Creek Mayor Heather Cloud, State Representative Rick Edmonds, State Representative Julie Stokes, Interim Secretary of State Kyle Ardoin, former First Assistant Secretary of State Renee Fontenot. So basically, we're going to start off with, we're going to give each of our candidates a chance to make their personal statement why they want to run for this office. Later on during the forum, we'll open it up for questions. We ask that only members of the press club or the working media ask questions during that portion. I will probably give a little bit of a reminder. But so to start off, let's have Mr. Guillory come up.
My brothers and sisters in the Louisiana family, the Kavanaugh Circus was a dark day in American history. America cannot afford this divisiveness. It leaves us vulnerable, exposed to charlatans in this country and in others. The only one thing that we can do to protect our people from more of the shenanigans that you have seen is to elect politicians who have character, who bring leadership. Today I rise on behalf of Senator A.G. Crow as Louisiana Secretary of State. Yes, he is well educated to be Secretary of State, a degree in business administration, but today I do not set forth his educational background. True, he has more than 45 years managing his businesses, including almost 20 years. I was given a special dispensation to make this statement and will no longer participate in any further in the question and answers. True, he does have more than 45 years managing his businesses, including almost 20 years managing and securing records. And of course, as you know, that's an important part of the job of the Secretary of State. But today, I do not set forth his vast and successful records management experience. And yes, he has spent almost 2 decades in the Louisiana legislature, where he served with distinction and honor in the House and in the Senate. But even that distinguished political experience and his incredible voting record, I do not set forth that today. Instead, I set forth his character and his leadership. I set forth his history of working to bring opportunity and security to families, just as he and Linda have done for the Crow family. I set forth his loving heart shown in his voting time after time on behalf of the people of Louisiana. I set forth today his ability to reach across divides, across political divides, economic, ethnic, gender, across any divide. AG can span that gap. Now, I'm not going to add that Mississippi River Bridge that y'all want to span. I set forth his deep spirituality. He's grounded in his faith, in his God, his faith, his family, his country, and he's grounded in his faith in the people of Louisiana. I set forth his years of quiet, uncompensated community service. Today I set forth his leadership in high school, in college, in church, in the Louisiana legislature, in business, and in his community. Character and leadership are the qualities we desperately need in public service.
All right, thank you.
Amazing Grace Crow, as we affectionately called him, will bring that to Louisiana politics.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, now we're going to start with our candidates who are here today. In alphabetical order, let's have Interim Secretary of State Kyle Ardoin.
I thank the Press Club for having this and for all of you taking time out to come with your busy schedules. I certainly appreciate it. You can't ever get time back. This is a very important race. This is a race in which we ask ourselves, can we afford on-the-job training? There's not a single candidate that has the depth of experience that I have and the unique cybersecurity experience that I have to deal with the election issues that face our state today and our nation. I'm proud of the service I've given. I'm a father of one 19-year-old daughter and married to Letty Lowe Ardoin for 23 years. I'm proud of the 8 years of experience as first assistant, and I'm certainly proud to serve as your Secretary of State today. And I look forward to this forum. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Cloud.
Hi, I'm Heather Cloud, Mayor of Turkey Creek, right in the center of the state. I've been mayor for 8 years. I'm the president of the Evangeline Parish Tax Commission. I also am a Louisiana entrepreneur. My husband and I own a trucking company of 15 years, and I opened a restaurant in Turkey Creek in 2011 to increase the sales tax revenue and job force of our village. I want to tell you, I'm running because I care about elections. Motive is imperative now when we're looking at people looking to serve our country and our state. And my motive is because I care about Louisiana elections. In 2014, my election was stolen from me because of voter fraud. Mentally handicapped people's votes were bought. Inflated voter rolls across the state were utilized to unseat me, and I had to wage war on state government, $25,000 and 5 court cases. And I have not dropped the ball carrying the torch of election integrity since I won my right for a new election, and I will not drop the ball of election integrity in the state as Secretary of State.
Thank you. Now Representative Edmonds.
Well, good afternoon. I'm Rick Edmonds. I'm State Representative District 66. Honored to be here today. Today is a great day to be a conservative American. I'm so thankful that President Trump is a fighter and that he did not give in on now we see a great justice that will serve us well. And I'm very thankful and grateful today to be a conservative Louisiana legislator and a candidate that I believe that I'm the most conservative candidate in this race. And I believe it's high time that the Secretary of State's office take that mantle and run forward with it. For 34 straight times, I have fought over the past 10 sessions for the businesses of Louisiana and for every hard-working resident of Louisiana to make certain that their taxes were not raised. And I believe that statement was correct then, and I believe that statement is correct now. We need conservative leadership in the state of Louisiana, and it'll be my great privilege to return that trust and honor and integrity to this great office. I hope that you'll consider my candidacy. I'd love to be your next Secretary of State. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Bree.
Hello, I'm Renee Fontenot Free. I am the only candidate in this ballot that has never run for office in my life. However, my experience makes me uniquely qualified to run the Secretary of State's office since I've been a public servant for the last 28 years. I'm an attorney. I've been with the Attorney General's office for 24 years, and the other 4 I was the first Assistant Secretary of State. And in those 4 years, it was probably the most difficult time in the history of the Secretary of State's office because we merged elections with the Secretary of State, and then we lost all that infrastructure south of I-10 and had to recreate it. So basically, we had to do it twice. I've run difficult elections like that one in New Orleans, and I need no on-the-job training. I am running because I am the most qualified, and I need to bring back trust to that office. The trust in that office has been compromised, and I think that I can bring back the trust that we need. And I'm not office shopping or I'm stopping.
Representative Stokes.
Thank you so much. I'm here today as a proud Louisianian and a Louisianian who will as your next Secretary of State, always put Louisiana first. I'm a first-generation college graduate. I'm a CPA. I'm a small business owner. I'm a mother of two. For the last 5.5 years in your state legislature, I have worked hard to raise Louisiana out of dismal business rankings and up to, we actually had a plan that would put us at 19. I have a plan for Secretary of State, one that will remove scandal from the office, protect taxpayers by making efficiencies in that office, and make sure that elections are kept safe and secure. I will protect elections and, most importantly, to help Louisianians create jobs. Part of this will be through that portal that we have to make the GoBiz portal much more effective for business users. Have two different tracks even, one for the entrepreneur and one for the attorney that's setting up a huge business. Thank you.
All right, just to start off, we all know election integrity has been a big issue in the news with Russian interference and now China attempts to interfere in elections. I was just curious if each of you candidates could tell me how big of a concern this is for you and what you think Louisiana should do to make sure that our elections are secure. And we'll start off with Ms. Cloud.
I want to tell you, I have to commend Secretary Shedler and his administration. I think that he has been very forward-thinking as far as cybersecurity goes. One of the main things and the most vital things is that we have to keep our elections off the internet. We do not have the infrastructure and the technology to start handling internet-based elections. And just the same that we're talking about cybersecurity breaches, and this is at the forefront of elections, we can't forget the ground game. We cannot forget the ground game. It is just as important. These breaches in election integrity, whether it's cybersecurity or it's vote buying or it's utilizing bloated voter rolls, all instill low turnout and zero confidence among the voters. We've got to attack low voter turnout, voter apathy from every angle, whether it be cybersecurity, whether it be on the ground, and we have to foster better communication between local elected officials to be able to do this. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Edmonds.
Well, I believe the first priority of the Secretary of State's office in this next administration will be the creation of a cybercrime division, not just some folks working in a particular area. I believe that cybercrime is here to stay. I think you believe that as well. All of our Secretary of States will be dealing with this issue. It's not going to go away. I don't think we have to be alarmists, but I think we have to be realists. All of our agencies are being hacked on a daily basis. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to reorganize the entire division. We're going to have to start from top to bottom. We know that there's not any extra monies or dollars. I understand that. I've worked on House Appropriations Committee for the past 10 sessions, so I realize it is a challenge. However, it has to become the number one priority. Our voter security is an absolute must. We cannot have our constituents in the state of Louisiana worrying about the infiltration of whether hackers or others that would cause our democracy to be threatened. So we will begin with that, and that will be the very first step, I think, in forward thinking to be this cybercrime division for the Secretary of State's office.
Thank you. Ms. Free.
The current system that we are operating on in elections is a secure system. I helped get it into place in 2005. We want to try to always advance to provide new technologies to the people of this state. However, we must balance security of the vote with technology. And so with that said, I am not a cybersecurity expert. Don't pretend to be. However, if elected, I will surround myself with a team of people who are experts in the field. And so with that, we work as a team, and we can look at technology, we can look at the security or lack thereof in each part of the technology and move from there. But without trust in the system, people will not vote. And thank you.
Representative Stokes.
Thank you so much. I think what I bring to the table that is unique is the designation of CPA. Quite frankly, CPAs, our job is to set up internal control departments, internal control environment, and to get good segregation of duties to where you know that the results that come in are accounted for properly and disseminated to the public. First day, well, actually the first day I'll say hi to everybody. Second day on the job, I want to start a procedural audit to go through exactly how we do the voting, how it all comes down and gets accumulated, to make sure that there are no gaps in our coverage, to make sure that we're secure. I believe very strongly in the sanctity of one person, one vote. We'll have no online voting. We'll continue to use voter identification. We'll have good, clean rolls. And cybersecurity, I thought I had 15 seconds left already. And in the cybersecurity realm, I'm going to tell you, I want to get the very best people. I want to have a team of experts that lead us. That last 15 seconds went really fast. Maybe I was right. Anyway, thanks.
All right, thank you all. So now we would like to take a few questions from the audience. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. Sorry.
No problem. I understand.
Mr. Ardoin.
People might like to forget me, but they can't. I'm the only candidate here that has classified clearance to get all the information. I'm the only one here that's working with the FBI, the Department of Homeland Security, the National Guard, you name it, all of our federal and local partners, the Sheriff's Association, state police, et cetera. We are secure in our elections. We've been doing so for quite some time. But the fact of the matter is, I would like to announce the creation that I've been working on of a cybersecurity officer in our office. That has been approved by the State Civil Service, and we now have it in place. I have moved our IT director into that position. We have fabulous people working on this issue, and we are now continuing to the next level of cybersecurity. No other candidate has the experience I have to deal with it. No one else knows the issues that are coming forth, and they can't know it because it'll take months for them to get the clearance necessary upon taking office. So I'm here to let you know that your vote is secure, it will be accurately counted, and it will be protected because it is protected.
So the question for our candidates is, how would you go about restoring faith in the Secretary of State's office, given the how we have gotten here and the resignation of former Secretary of State Tom Shedler? So for this one, we will start with Representative Edmonds.
Well, I believe integrity is something that you have or don't have, but it's basically defined this way. It's the who you are when no one's looking. And what you do with that is a lifelong experience. I've been married to my wife for 44 years. I have 4 sons, 4 daughter-in-laws, and 8 grandchildren. I believe that I have lived my life in a way that will reflect the kind of leadership and character and value that I have in my life, how I've raised my family. I think that's imperative of what you do in an office. You have to earn it, but you have to model it. You have to model it day in and day out. And so not only do we need policies in place, because I'm all for policies, but if you're going to have something like sexual misconduct that's taken place in an office like it's just occurred, you have to have the respect of the people that are around you day in and day out. And it's how you treat your people, but it's how they also they see you treat someone like your wife. And I know that I have brought that to the table, and I do bring that to the table as your next Secretary of State.
Again, my experience in state government has proven that I am fair and impartial. I have also been responsible for 500 employees for over 8 years, well, 12 actually. And I've been responsible for 800 employees for 4 years. They know that they can always come to me if there's an issue. I've proven that with my experience. As First Assistant Secretary of State, we had no issues of sexual misconduct in our office. In the Attorney General's office for 8 years under Buddy Caldwell, I was responsible for HR. I knew what was going on in that office because that was my responsibility. And so I've proven that I can handle those things. You can have all kinds of rules and regulations, but if you don't have someone with integrity that's implementing those, you have nothing. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think that this question is really important because, quite frankly, this office isn't open because we have a bad election system. It's not open because we have a bad corporate system. This office is open because of an act of inappropriate sexual misconduct in an office place. I consider myself to be a first responder in these sort of things. Quite frankly, when a bipartisan bill brought by Christian good people was brought to our legislature to prevent trafficking of human beings, and a really foolish nonsense amendment was put on it that belittled and degraded women, while everybody else was doing nothing or laughing, I pushed my button and I went up to the well of the House of Representatives and I took action for women and made sure that people knew that that sort of conduct was not going to be tolerated. And I've been called on here and there since then to do the same, and I can promise you that is the atmosphere we will have in this office. Thank you.
Sue, thank you for the question. As first assistant, once all of this occurred, I began immediately working on a new policy. We now have the strictest policy in all of state government. It is more strict than even the legislation that was passed. Prior to that, I dealt with a situation where an employee sexually harassed another that I was made aware of. I dealt with it swiftly and terminated the individual once the investigation was finalized. It has to be reported. Our motto in our office is, you see something, say something. That's how we've made the department much better, and we've focused on the rights of employees to make it a safe environment. Thank you.
I have been involved in, operated private and governmental business for over 15 years. Hundreds of personnel I have managed. I've established open dialogue, boundaries, policies, and procedures. Not once have I ever had an instance of sexual harassment. I've set the boundaries, and I'm a no-nonsense kind of woman. But I want to focus on this. This issue of sexual harassment and the resignation of Tom Shedler is an opportunity. It's instead of focusing on the bad, let's focus on the opportunity that we have here. We have an opportunity for change. If we want a better system of government, we're going to have to hit it where the problem is in the roots, which is in our election systems. We're going to have to hit election systems if we want clean government. So we need to focus on the opportunity that we have here and know that I'm a no-nonsense kind of woman, and I've never had a problem with sexual harassment in any of the businesses or governments that I've operated.
All right, so the question is, after highlighting what a big concern cybersecurity is, how do you actually pay for those enhancements? What would you cut from your office budget to maintain your commitment to that? So for this one, we'll start with Ms. Free.
It's kind of unfair to ask the rest of the candidates that question because we are not the ones who created the cybersecurity unit that Mr. Ardoin addressed a while ago. I've dealt with budgets for many, many years, up to $98 million, and when you increase one area of employees, you must cut another. And so I can't tell you where I would cut because I don't necessarily agree with the creation of that unit. And I'm no nonsense too, and I'm very fiscally responsible. I work very hard for where I have gotten in my life and what I have done in my life. Nothing was handed to me. And so I treat state tax dollars the same way I treat my own money because, I hate waste. And so I really can't say, Mr. Ballard, where I would cut because I'm not privy to how much that unit would cost. Thank you.
So I think there is an amount of truth to what was just said. I mean, none of us have been in there. But I'll tell you what, on the first day, I'll take my skills as a CPA right there to that office And first, we'll do a procedural audit, like an internal audit. We'll look at all the organizational charts, see how all the responsibilities are divvied up, make sure that they're divvied up in a way that promotes controls and that we're getting accurate results and we're secure. And then also do a financial audit. And once you understand all of the processes that are going on there, you know that you've got your bases covered to make sure that what happens is an honest, fair system. Then you can set about the work of trying to restructure your personnel to get the right people that are on the bus in the right seats. And I believe, and that is my sincerest hope, that we can find those efficiencies from doing that. I want people to feel like we're a family, and I want people to be in the right seats and in a job that rewards them, that they're good at, and that we can hopefully find ways to carve those efficiencies. Thank you.
Mark, thanks for the question. I've already been finding the efficiencies in the department. We've already been absorbing the cost of cybersecurity to this point, and creating this one position of a cybersecurity officer enables that person, who, by the way, has classified procedural clearance like I do. We work together as a team. Now, moving forward, there may be issues that we won't be able to absorb, but we certainly have absorbed the equipment expense for the clerks of courts for transmission of the election results. We're working hard every day to do more with less, because the legislature has seen fit to continue cutting our budget since 2010. They can cut, they can cut, they can cut. But at some point, there's got to be funding. You can say no to every tax there is, but the fact of the matter is we have true, real expenses, and that's what I'm focused on, delivering for the people of Louisiana a secure election system, and that's just what I've done.
Well, I've operated municipal government from an executive office and have never laid the burden of my budget on my taxpayers. I have never asked for a tax increase. I've never expected more. I believe that government should live within its means, period. And so, I think that's something we're really going to have to put on the table, is looking at maybe consolidating elections. We know that elections cost between $5 and $6 million to operate a statewide election. And so we shouldn't expect more from the legislature. We should operate within our means. So this is something that should be on the table. And so it's something that I would be looking at as Secretary of State.
Over the past 10 sessions, I've worked on transparency issues as your state representative, and I'll give you, Mark, one example of what I mean by that. Almost 2,200 people in the state of Louisiana on our budgets are funded positions, and they're never filled. That usually means about $150 million or more per year. There's a lot of waste in government. So what you have to do is you have to live within your means, and you do at times have to streamline. So I don't have the exact cut that can be made, but I can tell you that when you find areas and then you're willing to be transparent about it, those two bills, by the way, were vetoed by a governor that said he wanted to be transparent. If you want to be transparent, all I was asking for was a report of these positions that have never been filled. That money goes somewhere within those agencies. There's money to be found. We will find that money. We will streamline the department, and we will live within our means without, and I am glad that I have voted against every one of those taxes. That's the reason we have right now in the books almost $400 million worth of surplus.
The question is, generally, what is your take on how the state is, the Secretary of State's office is handling self-generated revenue, such as the fees that people pay whenever they're filing, and then separately also just your take on the state archives. Okay, and so we'll start with, we are now at Representative Stokes.
Well, I was just trying to see if I could find my analysis to see exactly how much self-generated revenue we have. But what I can tell you from what I do know, because I don't know the exact dollar amount right now, but it's at the tip of a fingertip, but not right here, is that right now we have a lot of fees that cover things that used to actually take money to do, like copies. You have this all over the state in your Secretary of State, in your clerk of courts offices too. Maybe we could modernize our fee structure, I think is probably one thing, because I do believe that there's a lot of time when people request a copy, well, now you just download it. You just download the form now, so things have changed quite a good bit. So I do think that a study of that and how it's laid out is going to be really important to do. We do so many things in so many old-fashioned ways, and we all sit here, we know enough about government to know that even though something no longer makes sense, we leave it in place just to make sure that something's funded. And in the end, we end up stopping some progress that I'd like to try to get going. Thank you.
Our self-generated revenue is $27.6 million. All of our self-generated revenues either runs the corporate division or the archives division. And inside corporations is also the notary division. Inside archives, you have records preservation, records retention, you name it, our genealogical section in our library. All of that is run off of our self-generated revenue. We're focused on trying to give the best bang for our buck. We created the GoBiz portal. We were able to do so at the expense of no other department. We utilized internal funds to do that, so now we streamline services between workforce and revenue. And so when you drop off into our system, you give information for both. The archives is a very important part of our process. We continue to look for ways to revamp it. We just recently reorganized at the early part of the year in order to focus on records retention issues for local governing authorities to help them reduce their paper. So we're doing a lot. That's the section that's never really valued or given a lot of credit. Thank you.
I wish I had 2 minutes for this one because it's two topics. I'll just hit on the archiving. When I first became mayor of Turkey Creek, a big hindrance that we had was that ordinances and minutes and historical data of our village was not properly kept. So I realized the importance of archiving, and I also realized the importance of the digital age. It's allowed abstractors and attorneys such a revolutionary advantage to be able to tap into information that used to would take them weeks and a whole lot more money. And then I want to hit on the fee schedule for the businesses. I am a business owner. I've been utilizing the business department for 15 years. Something that I notice as a business owner and being from rural Louisiana is that a lot of those fees are left uncollected. And part of the reason is because the collections have all become internet-based. And that's wonderful that we have the advantage of using technology to collect fees, and it does cut down on some postage costs. But part of the issue is that businesses are becoming inactive because they're not aware that their fee schedule is due. So, the old time mail-outs need to be thought about just to take into consideration those in the rural areas of Louisiana to collect those fees. Thank you.
Well, we have about $84 million worth of budgeting that we do in Secretary of State's office, and the hidden gem is the corporate business division. It's high time that Louisiana have a new face for new business. I believe it ought to be in the Secretary of State's office. It ought to be the Louisiana dream. We're losing too many people that leave this state to go start and launch somewhere else. And you know what the 7 last words of any failing organization is? Well, we've never done it that way before. It's time for some change in the Secretary of State's office. We need to be the face of new business, helping young entrepreneurs, middle-aged, older entrepreneurs begin to start their businesses in Louisiana. They need help. They need ideas. They need functioning times with other leaders. And so we're going to have to really beef up that division, and I believe it will be the hidden gem of all the things we do, and that the Secretary of State's office takes the lead in establishing new businesses in the state of Louisiana, and thus new jobs and economy improves. We all are for that kind of leadership in the state of Louisiana.
As an administrator of many budgets for the state, I think it's very important to know that the $27 million that is generated by corporations is helping fund corporations and the archives. That's a good thing, because that means that there are less state general fund dollars that need to be given to the Secretary of State's office to help it run. I've had number of divisions at the Attorney General's office that they're a drain on state general fund dollars, and I have been in others that help with self-generated revenue. So it's very, very important to understand that corporations is paying for itself. Further, I also have a history degree, and so I love history and the state archives, and I think it's a beautiful facility. I think they're doing a good job, but the records management is really important. It's not a sexy thing. People don't really like to talk about it, but it's vital in order to preserve the history of the state. And so I think that I would focus a little more time and energy on records retention. Thank you.
Okay, so Melinda's question is about issues of the voting machine contracts, and I guess it's appropriate that we are back in the rotation for Mr. Ardoin to be the first one to speak. But she also has asked of the other candidates just their thoughts on how the process has been handled.
So I guess I'll get a rebuttal.
He might need a rebuttal.
Well, the fact of the matter is this RFP process has gone much like the one in 2005. In 2005, there were 9. In 2018, there are 3. There's always a winner, and there are losers, and now there are challengers. So it's in the protest phase, which is not unseen before. In 2005, it was protested. 2018, it's protested. In 2005, there was a lawsuit. I suspect there'll probably be another lawsuit. These are very, very complex contracts. These are very complex and critical competitions. Obviously, when you have fewer vendors to compete, it becomes very, very attractive to the survival of these companies. You know, bottom line is the last other 2 companies aren't as happy about it because they lost the bid. They were $40 million or more ahead of the cost of this one. We haven't even negotiated it. This is a sticker price thing. You never pay sticker price on a car. We're not going to pay sticker price now. We're focused in on bringing the new technology to the people of Louisiana.
There's been so much controversy surrounding the procurement of these new machines that we are blessed that the federal government has dedicated federal dollars for us to acquire these machines. I do want to say that there should be no cloud surrounding these kinds of procurements and these contracts anymore, these bid processes. People are tired of muck surrounding, taxpayer money, and a lot of taxpayer money is going to go into the procurement of these machines. I do want to tell you that I believe that at all cost, a public servant should avoid the appearance of impropriety, period, at all cost, even as a sacrifice to himself or herself.
Well, weeks ago, I called on Interim Secretary Ardoin to stop this process. He refused to do so, so I'm not pleased at all. I am thankful today, however, with the Office of Procurement. They have done exactly what they should have done. They protected us. We now have, in protest, 2 out of the 3 companies. According to an AP report of several weeks ago, this was a bid rig. And what that meant and what the story reported is that 2 companies did not have the same advantage that one company did. So therefore, it became completely out of balance. We cannot tolerate any more scandals in government, and particularly in the Secretary of State's office. If this is the on-the-job training that we're looking forward to, this has occurred in this first 100 days, and it is absolutely unacceptable. $50 million is now ramped to $95 million, and I assure you that as a member of the House Appropriations Committee, there's no way that we'll subscribe to a $95 million budget when we started at $45 or $50 million.
And after the end of these answers, we will have a 30-second rebuttal from Mr. Ardoin if he would like one. But now we'll hear from Ms. Free.
It's very unfortunate that these things happened with this voting machine contract or bids. In 2005, I was one of the people that wrote the RFP and helped purchase the machines that you vote on now. And yes, there was a lawsuit, but the courts quickly dismissed it because it didn't have any merit. And so yes, the people who don't win get mad, but if it's in the court and the court quickly dismisses it, then you know it was just hard feelings and not substantial error. When we did that RFP, I did not interject myself into the contents of the RFP as far as substance goes. I am not an expert in the field of cybersecurity or electronics or computers, But I make sure, and we did then, to surround ourselves with the people who were experts in the field so that we would get the correct and the best written RFP for what we wanted in this state. At the end of the day, no matter what happens, the state loses. And so I would bring something totally different to the table in that type of process. Thank you.
The first thing I think that needs to happen here is a fresh set of eyes. I've said that a lot of times up here. Fresh set of eyes, a good look at the department. This department has seen a lot of ruckus lately. I mean, quite frankly, there was the original scandal. That all happened. Then, on top of that, you've had problems with the voting machine contract. We've had the acting Secretary of State removed from the voting contract. From the procurement process. When you look at the contract, $95 million, when what was talked about in budget and in the process of our legislative session was 50 to 60 million. I think that it's high time that we have a fresh set of eyes. We remove the scandal from the office and start fresh, and just start fresh for a new Louisiana, build a 21st century Louisiana together. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's called Request for Proposals. I can't help them understand the process. The process is going exactly the way it's supposed to go. And you know what? It's going to be fine in the end. I'm confident of that. All this is a way to cook up some political news for themselves and their political agenda, which is to take me out of office. They want the job I have. Instead of, they are solely trying to create baloney out of a bologna sandwich that it does not give anything. There's no credibility to this whatsoever.
All right, I think we are running low on time right now, so we're going to give each of the candidates a minute to just wrap up with any closing thoughts on the election. So for this, we will start with Mayor Cloud.
Are you going to give me an extra minute? So, look, I'm the only person in the state of Louisiana to launch a court battle and set a new precedent in the state of Louisiana with my court case, Heather Cloud versus Tom Shedler, Secretary of State, in 2014. I've worked on 2 bills to clean up the election code and reduce the burden on taxpayers in Louisiana when an election is stolen. And so if you want a fight, if you want somebody that's going to just not drop the ball and carry the torch of election integrity to the very end, it's me. But I also want to tell you that you need a Secretary of State that is willing and able to inspire people to get involved in our election system again. You need someone that is going to be the ambassador of elections and get out there and inspire people to be involved. It is not okay that in our state we have 13% turnout on statewide elections, 8% turnouts on tax proposals. That means the majority of people are not weighing in, and this is a problem, and this is something that we have to conquer in this state. There are 3 forces that are affecting our election system and robbing your blood-bought freedom, and that is vote buying, and that's voter apathy, and that's cybersecurity breaches. We've got to come at it. Our next Secretary of State's got to come at it from every angle and throw everything that the next Secretary of State has to conquer these problems. Thank you.
Well, here's some mayo with that baloney. When you testify in front of House and Governmental Committee and you give somebody your word, keep your word, then the next time around, we won't have to doubt it. I'm here to be your next Secretary of State, and I'm going to keep my word. For the past 10 sessions, I have fought for the working people of the state of Louisiana. I have fought to protect your wallet. I believed I was right then. I want to offer to you the opportunity to protect your ballot. Election security is at an all-time high. We know hacking and other things that are occurring around this country cannot violate our democracy. I have been a fighter, and I will be a fighter. I will love my wife and my family, and I will bring back trust, honor, and integrity to this office. And today, I humbly ask to be your next Secretary of State. Thank you.
I ask for your vote because I think that I can bring trust back to the office. And the reason why is because I'm trying to lead by example. I've taken a leave from the Attorney General's office in May. I am not accepting a state paycheck at all. I haven't gotten a paycheck since May. It kind of chokes me up sometimes. But anyway, I think that by leading by example, you can restore trust to that office. I am not a politician. I have never run for office in my life. But I feel like that I have a unique set of qualifications based on my history with the state. It's important that we keep partisan politics out of that office. And my pledge, and I have been saying this over and over throughout the state, that the decisions I make will be made on what's in the best interest of the people of this state, not what's in Renee Free's best interest or any political party's best interest. It is an administrative job, and I'm uniquely qualified to handle it. Renee Free, the vote is free, November 6th on the 6th. Thank you.
Thank you. What I bring to this office first, again, CPA, be able to go in that office first day with a fresh set of eyes. I have a plan. That plan is going to get the right people in the right seats of the bus. We're going to remove the taint of scandal from this office. We're going to protect taxpayers by making sure that we use their resources in the most efficient way possible and the most effective way possible, because who hasn't had trouble getting in touch with the state agency? We're going to protect elections, not only through a good internal control structure, because I'm sure that that's not the most exciting thing you've ever heard, but by making sure that we stick to good principles about keeping our rolls clean and keeping our elections safe. Finally, we're going to create jobs because we're going to be the best friend of business. We're going to open a portal that's going to be second to none in the U.S. We're going to do as much as possible to have an advisory group within our office that helps businesses stay here. We're going to be an honest, pragmatic voice for this state, and I just appreciate your vote. Last name on the ballot, go to the bottom, Stokes.
Thank you very much for coming out and again giving up of your precious time to hear us. This has been a very exciting opportunity to campaign across the state for your continuing the position of Secretary of State. I've been honored to serve in this position. I was honored to serve as 8 years as First Assistant. We've done some wonderful things in this agency, and I think people know that. They know that our agency is responsive. You know, when you hit front runner status, you always know when, because they're all hitting you. That's okay. I can take it. They're playing politics. I'm leading a state agency. I'm your chief elections officer. I know cybersecurity. I know how to secure your vote. I know how to make sure it is counted properly, and that at the end of the day, we've run an effective, efficient election system and Secretary of State's office. Thank you, and God bless.
My message was it's time to put people over politics, and we need to make sure that partisan politics has no place in the Secretary of State's office.
Why are you running for Secretary of State?
Because the Secretary of State's office has lost the trust of the people, and it is responsible for people to trust them and trust the elections process.
What is your experience in state government?
I've been with the state for 28 years. I'm an attorney. I worked from 1990 until 2004 with the Attorney General's office, and then from 2004 to 2008 with the Secretary of State's office, and then 2008 till May of this year with the Attorney General's office again. So I have ample experience with state government. I've served 5 Attorneys General and 3 Secretaries of State.
Tell us with the issue of the previous Secretary of State leaving under the shade of scandal, your feeling regarding reform that's necessary.
Well, you have to have someone with some integrity in that office. And with my experience, I've handled 800 employees, 500 employees, and because of the way we handled our business, we had no sexual harassment in those offices.
Tell us your feeling regarding a big issue in elections, the security of elections.
I think the system is very secure at this time. It's a system that I helped put in place in 2005, but it's not on the World Wide Web, and so it's not susceptible to be hacked.
Tell us your feeling regarding the issue of getting more people to vote, increasing voter turnout throughout the state.
Well, you have to get people enthused about the process, number one, and number two, you have to have people on the ballot that people can trust. And so I have some ideas about energizing youth with regard to elections and that process, because I have a teaching degree as well, and so I want to get into high schools and educate the youth about what elections affects, and it does affect their everyday life, but they just don't know it.
Secretary of State's office also deals a lot with every Louisiana business. What are your feelings regarding that area?
Well, as I've gone through the state in this election, I have asked people, what is your interaction with the Secretary of State's office? And I've had several people indicate that the Go Biz app is a little bit difficult. I think if you're an attorney or you are already in business, you already know how to do it. But there are others that simply just don't have the background. And so we need to be a little more helpful to those people who are just starting businesses.
Your reaction to the issue that was brought up here during the forum regarding the contract that has been put out to bid for new voting machines for the state?
Well, I was involved in the last purchase of voting machines, and I think that it's not a very good thing whenever the leader interjects themselves into the process, especially whenever we're not experts in that field. And if you think you are an expert in that field and you're running that office, I beg to differ. I beg to differ. I'm a little more humble than that. There are many people that are much more intelligent or well-versed in cybersecurity and elections programming than I am. And so we have to go with the team and get them to help us to do an RFP and to implement that.
The Secretary of State's office also manages museums around the states and state archives. What about that area?
Well, that's one of the areas that I truly enjoy. I actually helped set up a museum in Monroe when I was working for Jay Darden in the Secretary of State's office. I think the archives is very important to the history of this state, and I think that they do a good job. And people have asked me about keeping all the museums in the Secretary of State's office or having them put in the Lieutenant Governor's office. And I have pledged to look at that issue to figure out what's in the best interest of each museum to see if it's more cost effective, if they get more exposure in one place or another. So I'm willing to look at that.
In conclusion, with the race with so many candidates, what are going to be the deciding factors between now and Election Day?
Well, I would hope that people would look at the individual. I've preached all throughout the state that it's more important to have someone that's going to make decisions based on the best interest of the people of this state, not me as an individual or any political party, because this has to be a nonpartisan office, especially if you're preserving the history of the state. You don't want to color history with your partisan views, and with elections, you can't be partisan.